week's edition of Checking with the Doctor. I actually have, I think for the first time, a repeat visitor, Mr. Ron Hubsher. He's a sales trainer. He's an author. He's a guest lecturer at Harvard University. And someone I am very proud to also call a friend. Ron, how the heck are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. And Chris, I wanted to thank you. I really appreciate all the thought leadership that you produce, especially for sales engineers, but the whole entire profession of selling. You add a huge amount of value. So I'm delighted to be a guest again. And for anyone who's a sales engineer, you have to pick up Chris's book. It's sort of the Bible of the industry, if I can call it that. So I would highly recommend it.
That's very, very nice of you to say, sir. And I have to say, you're looking rather sharp. I'm kind of loving this look with the jacket. I mean, I feel like we're sort of in sort of the normal world again, you know, like this feels like a conference room conversation.
Yeah, you know, it feels like things are coming back, which is good. You know, hopefully with the pandemic, things will hopefully start getting better. And I've been actually taking trips again, which is good.
Wow.
I think so far. And clients, I think, are planning conferences with a little bit, you know, of an asterisk on it. But we have a lot of stuff coming up in January and March, which will either be done live or remote, but they're hoping for live.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, I hope it means you've got a busy slate of work today, and I just happen to be one of your many meetings. If you put the jacket on for me and my audience, then I'm unbelievably flattered. So I think you look fantastic.
I have to up my game to reach your game, Chris. So I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on again. And I appreciate all that you do, and enjoyed being on with you the first time so much. Really, you're such a wonderful thought leader and just an even better person. So I really appreciate that.
Those are nice words. So Ron, in case we have anybody who might be listening who didn't catch our first conversation or may not be familiar with you, do you mind just taking a moment and introducing yourself a little bit more properly?
Yeah, well, I'm Ron Hubsher. I've got 30 plus years in sales and sales management. And we have I run a company called the Sales Optimization Group, and we work with companies worldwide, companies like ADP, Google, Oracle, so many GE, across all sectors, a lot of SaaS and software companies, a lot of medical device companies, manufacturing, a whole bunch. And we help them improve their sales process. And the part we particularly focus on is in sales negotiation. And sales negotiation is a different kind of negotiation than other type of negotiations. Like a lot of people specialize in conflict resolution. You know, how parties of war come to peace, or has a labor union negotiate with the corporation. Yeah, and that's a very different type of negotiation than a business-to-business sales negotiation, where you want to win the deal, command a price premium, and create a great long-term relationship, which is different than like conflict resolution, where you know, there are two parties at war, or there's a labor union dealing with a labor union negotiating with a corporation, and you know, the labor union can go out on strike, or the company could shut down the factory, and there's no third party waiting in the wings. So status quo is really not an option, and there's no third party willing to take away, you know, and come and undercut you and underprice your business. And then there are other folks who specialized in spot transactional negotiation. How do I beat a street vendor out of $15? You know, there's no sales process up front, and there's no legacy on the back end. And no one had really studied business-to-business sales negotiation, and that's what we specialize in.
That's awesome. And how long has it been? Because you published, and the book is called Closing Time, right? Correct. And how long ago has it been? What, 10 years since you published Closing Time?
The book first came out in 2008, and we make slight modifications and updates to it every year. People, just minor things. The 7 laws have not changed. It's the 7 immutable laws. The 7 laws have not changed. Just when we find a new interesting insight to something, we put a little something in. And people can download the book from our website. If you go to salesog.com, get front complimentary PDF, Kindle, or iPad version. It's only 80. I'll actually show you a copy. It's only 85 pages in physical form. Takes about an hour to read, and was written by a pretty simple guy. So no big words, lots of white space. Lots of white space.
It's my kind of book. I think I got through it in 2 hours. Okay. So let's talk about, can we talk for a minute about the 7 immutable laws of negotiation?
Absolutely. We'd love to, Chris.
So let's take them one at a time. start at the top. Number one, what's the number one law, of negotiation?
Before I get into the first law, there's two things you really need to negotiate well. The first is you have to put in a superlative sales effort. A superlative sales effort creates the potential to negotiate well. If you combine that with a strong negotiation plan, you'll capitalize on that potential. If you have a weak or non-existent plan, you'll squander that potential. But there's no magic or abracadabra that I can tell you today that'll make for a poor sales effort. So a strong sales effort is absolutely critical to negotiate well. And a lot of popular methodologies these days are MEDDIC. You might be Miller Heiman fan, solution selling fan. There's a whole bunch. Spin. You have to put a thorough sales process in, and then you can start thinking about. Well, you think about your negotiation from the very first call, and then you combine that with a strong negotiation plan. And what we found in my own personal history is you name the sales training program, I've probably been through it. Challenger, MEDDIC, Spin, Miller Heiman, you name it, I've probably been through it. And what I've realized is that people didn't have a strong negotiation plan to follow up those really great sales processes.
Interesting.
So the first rule of negotiation, the first law of negotiation is you have to be the buyer's number one choice. So if you're not the number one choice, then the buyer's negotiating with you to beat down the price of the real winner, your competition, right? And we talk about is people don't buy price in a business-to-business complex sale. People don't buy price, they buy risk. And if in your sales process you can show you the least risky solution, then you've earned the right to command a price premium. So all of our clients, we always talk about them. How are you lowering the risk? And risk comes in two forms: business risk and personal risk. And how are you lowering that risk profile for Chris, and all the decision makers? So we want our clients to sort of make a list of who all the decision makers are and how they win from a business perspective, from us winning business, and more importantly, how they win from a personal perspective.
So I need to interrupt you just there, Ron, because already you've said a couple things that I just want to make sure people get. So the first thing you said, even before you got to number one, is the importance of a strong sales process. What I hear you saying is that you can't have a weak sales process, right? Mm-hmm. A weak sort of sales motion, if I may, right? Yeah. And then have a strong negotiation approach to sort of save the day at the end, of a bad sales process is what I'm hearing. Got that? Yes.
Correct.
But on the flip side, you've seen a lot of people with a lot of organizations with a very strong sales process, sales approach, methodology, and then a weak negotiation approach on the end. And so you do all this hard work, and then you don't successfully get the price you're looking for. It's not as much of a win-win because you don't know how to negotiate.
Yeah, you squandered all that. Yeah, that's perfect. You squander all that potential. And I think, particularly for sales engineers, right, you go out, you do a customized demo, right? You understand, like in a good sales process, you do great discovery. You tie your demo to their critical needs and their personal needs, right? You've done all this great stuff. So you created a lot of value and you built a lot of equity in your sales process. And then you give it all away with a ill thought out or unprepared negotiation plan.
Man,
you do all that work, right? As great sales engineers and everybody in the sales process, you put countless of hours, countless of efforts. You're a great quality company. You have great quality products. And then, for SaaS companies, they'll discount 20%, 30% these days. We haven't gotten into the software land where it's usually 40 to 60%, but 20% for SaaS companies is pretty standard. And, I would suggest that you can command price premiums and create better relationships as well. So I always think about one of the mindsets I have before I go into negotiation is we're going to end up both with more value at the end of the negotiation than the beginning of the negotiation. So I might have sent you a proposal, right, that said, hey, we're going to do a 3-year commit at this price. And then when we go through to negotiate it, we may end up with a longer term commit and you may end up with more value. Maybe, we'll give you an extra month free or additional users or priority support or other things that continue to lower the risk that are on a dollar for dollar discount. And what do we want to get in return? Maybe longer term commitment, maybe an earlier start, get ramped sooner, all those different things, success story, case study, metrics. We just had a great negotiation with a client. We're actually going out to do training this week. And, they said, here's our budget. Here's what we can fit in. I said, I'll tell you what, we can do these additional things. We'll have an additional webinar if you'll agree to 2 success story videos, 2 case studies for metrics, and give you an introduction to 5 other companies. And they go, great, we have 5 customers who I'd love to introduce you to. Mm-hmm. So they ended up with more value, right? I said, after we do the training, we're going to do follow-up webinars for you because you're going to love it. And it's great for me because I get to document success, right? And then I get your success story videos. I get 5 references from someone who's going to be a great reference. So we go into the negotiation with the idea of that, here's my proposal. And most people go into negotiation, go, oh, here's my proposal. I'm going to have to give price. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to end up with less. And I want to end up with more, and I want them to end up with more. So
yeah, that's brilliant. And, I think I just learned a valuable lesson there, which is when somebody's asking maybe for more with a limited budget, right? Mm-hmm. Funds are not the only way in which people can, quote, pay for services, mm-hmm. right? Like you said, like the webinar and that sort of thing. Incidentally, Ron, I gotta sort of make a call out. Michael Ashman has asked a couple questions, actually. So, Michael, it's good to see you. He's asking for for your website again. So quickly, Can you repeat the website? And I'll make sure we write it after the fact as well. But what's your website again?
Sure, Michael. By the way, thank you for listening in. It's Sales OG as an optimization group or original gangster. So Sales OG. So it changes your impression of me, I hope. So Sales OG as in Sales Optimization Group or salesoriginalgangster.com. If you go into the book tab, first of all, there's lots of free videos that you can do to learn from. We have some nice success stories, free videos. If you go under the book tab, you can download a Kindle or iPad. Awesome. And you should be able to do it.
He also has another question. How would an ideal SaaS BDR SDR help demonstrate the lowest risk? Do you want to take that one now, or do you want to couch that for a minute? Yeah, well, so first of all, you have to know what you sell, right? And what I always talk about is risk comes in in 2 forms: business risk and personal risk. So through your discovery process, which you'll do as an SDR or BDR, right? You're going to discover, hey, what are your business needs? What are you trying to do? Why is that important to you? How does this fit in with your corporate goals? What are you trying to accomplish? How will this benefit you and your team, right? So a lot of times, it's really interesting. A lot of people think there's a lot of product differentiation. In early stage companies, there's maybe some product differentiations, but rarely is it square wheels versus round wheels. It's like, if you're selling square wheels versus round wheels, great. Stay at that company as long as you can. And they go, look, they got square wheels, we got round wheels. Which one do you want? But usually when you get a little bit of maturity, the features and functions become very similar. And one of our clients said, they came with this great line that I really enjoy. It's not the product, it's the we, right? How are we going to make this a lower risk solution for you, right? If you want to buy accounting software, there's 3 huge companies or 4 huge companies and probably 20 mid-market companies you could buy from, right? They can all do the job. Maybe feature number 174 is a little better than, feature number 175, but there's really no product differentiation. The differentiation is, hey, you have to get a deadline of this. You're in the banking industry and you have to hit a deadline of this date. We have professionals who've done it for community banks or large banks or regional banks or super banks, whatever it is, and understand that and understand, what the personal risks are. And I'll give you a great example. I used to sell CRM software. This is going back 20 years ago. And one of the gentlemen I was selling to said, hey, I have to get my forecasting report to my boss by Friday at 5:00. It's just killing me if I don't. And always listen for emotional words. And this is for any sales engineer. Listen for emotional words, because that's usually a rabbit hole in someone's personal agenda. So he said, hey, this is just really killing me. I said, killing me, tell me more. He goes, yeah, well, if I don't get my forecast report in, my boss is upset at 5:00. My boss is upset with me, right? I hit Silicon Valley traffic and my 45-minute commute becomes 2 hours. And when I get home, my significant other is a little aggravated with me, and even my dog's a little frustrated with me. So, his whole life was tied up in getting this forecast report done at 5:00. And I said, well, great. What if we had a button so you could press, and that would email the forecast report to you and your boss automatically? Or better yet, we can have the forecast report generated and sent to you no matter where you are in the world. So you can look it over, make sure it's okay, and then send it to your boss. He goes, yeah, that's great. That's a small programming fix. $50, $100, and anybody could have done it. It was just the fact that we knew how to do it. We knew it was his personal agenda. I need that forecast report by 5:00. It's got to look like this. We showed him on the demo. Here's your forecast report. This is exactly what you wanted. We'll have this auto-generated and email to you wherever you are, and you can look it over and then send it to your boss, or you can have it CC'd on your boss. So it wasn't a feature thing. It was understanding their business risk and their personal. Totally. So that's what I say all the time, right? He or she who buys a shovel doesn't want a shovel. They want a hole. Right? Yeah. They don't just want a hole, they want a fence. They don't just want a fence, they want privacy, right? You aren't selling software. You are selling the ability for him to give his boss what he wants and get home on time. Right?
Exactly.
That's what you're selling.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I absolutely love that example. So Michael, thanks for the question. I hope that it doesn't. By the way, anybody else, if you're on, if you care to ask Ron or myself a question, of course, or if you care to just say hello, I always love seeing who's with us. So Ron, let's go back to number one.
Mhm.
The first law was first you have to be the number one choice.
Correct.
And why I love hearing that is who's directly involved in helping companies, particularly software companies, right, SaaS companies, become the customer's number one choice. The sales engineer, right? The pre-sales folks. I mean, it's our role. I like to say it's our role to get the technical win, right? I'm just going to start using that when somebody says, "Well, how do you define the technical win?" I'm going to say to become the customer's or prospect's number one choice, right? That's achieving the technical win. So with that law established, let's go to law number two.
Yeah. And by the way, just one other thought for sales engineers. When I do a demo or I have a sales engineer, anytime, less is more. So find out what's really important and show those screens. And our best demos are typically, 4 or 5 screens. And then I always like asking, how does that fit with your ideal world? And let them tell themselves, we do every demo we would do is hyper customized, show us what you're looking for. And then we show you. I go, well, how does that fit with your ideal world? Oh, this is absolutely perfect, right? So I'm not telling them, they're telling themselves. And one more point on law number one, and the way I always like to ask it, I always like to say is, if price wasn't an issue, would we be your number one choice, right? And I want to hear yes to that. And then the follow-up question is why, right? Because then they'll tell you exactly the reasons why you've earned the right to command a price premium, right? Oh, I can see this is easy to implement, right? Adoption is going to be super easy. This is exactly the report we're looking for. We have customized, reports are customizable, and this is, with a click of a button, I get the exact report I need. That's going to save me thousands of hours or hundreds of hours or whatever it might be. So you want to be the number one choice, and then you want to ask it, if price was an issue, who would be your number one choice, and then why? And let them explain to you why you earn the right to command the price premium. And that, a lot of people, when they think about negotiation, they think it's tense. When someone tells you, yeah, and why, it resolves, all the tension dissolves, right? I mean, just fades away. So really cool.
I just absolutely love that stream. By the way, Phil K has chimed in. Less is more always. Phil, it's good to see you. Glad you're joining and appreciate your comment.
Yeah, and to go with what Phil says, even like in your response to emails, like no one has time to read email. Like I have an email I can show you 50 different assets, right? And I actually think back on any response to a follow-up demo or a follow-up call. I actually try and just make it like, what are my 3 biggest things that I'm going to send them? Like maybe a customized report, 1 or 2 success videos. And then I just say, hey, if you want to see other stuff, we have the following things. But, you'll be lucky if someone, it's actually really interesting. I go into sales calls, we're 3 deep into a sales call. No one's even visited my website. And that's very, that's becoming more and more. And you can expect that become the norm in the future. So just give them 1 or 2 things that's really going to tell you what you guys are about. Some people will drill in deeper. But, just keep it simple so they'll do something, something small. And I always say, 45-second video. So it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. Not like, and this one, if you want to do it, this one's 3 minutes on, there's a 5-minute video. But give them a series of choices that just take a small amount of time.
Yeah, completely with you. Yeah. All right, so what is number 2? What's law number 2?
The second law is know the value you create. If you don't know the value you create, you're going to be left to defend price, which is going to put you in a defensive or reactionary negotiation position. If, on the other hand, you know the value you create, you're going to create a compelling reason to close. And the analogy I use is, Chris, do you have a favorite American football team or European football team? Or
I'm embarrassed to admit the Washington football team is my favorite team. I grew up in D.C. I'm still in D.C. So for better or for worse, they're my team.
Understood. I'm a New York Giant fan, so I've been had some good years, but I've been suffering the last 10 years or so. So the same thing is true. So imagine that, if the Washington football team is always playing defense and the other team has the possession of the ball, what's your chance of winning that game?
Yeah, pretty slim. Yeah.
Pretty slim. If on the other hand, they're in possession of the ball and they're playing offense, regardless of who the quarterback may be, what's your chance of winning that game?
Better, for sure.
Yeah. Right, for sure. And the same is true of your negotiation. If you don't know the value creating, you say, well, these 3 SaaS companies, they'll go down to $15 per month or $60 per month or whatever the number is, or they'll do it for this. And you're always competing against low price competitors and ankle biters, right? If on the other hand, the value you create a compelling reason to close the sale. So you mentioned that by being able to forecast more accurately, hit your numbers, you'll be able to, increase your sales by 10%, right? Which is an extra $10 million per year, right? Each month of delay is $800,000. Why are we arguing over 20, 30, 50, $100,000 when each month of delay is $800,000, right? I'd rather get you in the priority implementation queue, which, by the way, to get you in the priority implementation queue would cost another $10,000 or whatever it might be. I'll tell you what, we'll get you onto that priority implementation queue, for another $10,000. And if you have to trade that away later on, so we can do it for $5, but I'm gonna need you to roll this out more quickly.
Do you have specific tips and advice that you give to people to get to the point where they truly know the value and understand the value?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. About maybe 5% of the companies we have actually have an ROI calculator, and then the number of times it's actually used. If you have a company using it 50%, that's extraordinary. Yeah. So most sales situations, you're not having a precise ROI calculator, but I always want to ask that question: what's the value of this? What's the value of that? Right? What's the value of in our business, we talk about what if you can do discounting 5%? What does that mean to your business? Well, we do $500 million a year. Okay, so 5% is 25 million. Right. The cost of what we offer is a little less than 25 million typically. So, right. So you want to just talk about that. And, some people, it may be incalculable. It's the whole ballgame. Okay. So it's worth the price of your whole enterprise. Why are you negotiating about, $20,000? And by the way, we're going to have to bring it to legal. We're going to bring it to finance. It's going to add delay. Let's get this thing implemented sooner. Get it off your plate, right? You want to move forward. You don't want this hanging over your head. You want this to be successfully implemented, and let's get the resources.
Yeah. Well, and the example that I'll use on the regular when I'm talking to some of the the clients that I work with is I'll simply ask if each one of your, let's say, sales engineers closed one more deal per quarter, what would that mean to the bottom line?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's just do some math. To your point, let's just do some math. Right. Now, by the way, I think they'll probably close 5 or 10 more deals a quarter, right? Depending on your your volume and all that. But let's err on the downside.
Yeah, and anybody who's sort of on the sales side, I always ask, what's a typical deal size? Typical deal size $100,000. Okay, if we can close 3 more of those a year using this methodology, it pays for itself. Really, really simple. Well, you're absolutely right. How many deals have slipped and have you lost? Absolutely, 100% agreeing with you, Chris, as always.
The other thought that comes to mind, this came up in one of my recent workshops. We were talking about costs and how do we respond to questions about price and cost and all that. And to be fair, my workshops don't get into that too much because I focus a little bit more on the relationship with sales and pre-sales and all that. But I said, honestly, when somebody asks me about price, I say, frankly, I don't view this as an expense. I view this as an investment. Now, if you don't view this as an investment, maybe we're not having the right conversation, right? But so one of the questions you should be asking is, to me, if I believe in the investment, I want to put as much money into it as I can, right? So that I can get as much, the biggest return. So I don't know. Does that sort of?
Chris, I love that. I think your thought leadership always stands out. That's exactly right. This isn't a cost. This is an investment. And if you're getting a 20x, 10x and time your investment, you want to put as much money into that as possible, not as little.
Exactly.
Right. Let's get more users, more people. Where other parts of the organization can we expand this to? How many can we get people up more quickly? And I love the way you present that. That's really, really phenomenal, Chris.
Yeah.
That was really quite brilliant. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Let's move on to number 3. So first one, you got to be the number one choice.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, you got to know the value.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 3, what's the third law?
Number 3 is to anticipate getting squeezed on price. Price negotiation is not cost justification. They want to buy. The next question is, what price can I get you at? And they're going to squeeze you. Anybody worth their salt is going to squeeze you just to see what happens, right? And the analogy we use is a wet towel, dry towel analogy. So, Chris, if I gave you a wet towel and I said, squeeze this towel, and for every drop of water, I'll give you $1,000 off, how many times would you squeeze that towel?
Man, I'm going to squeeze that thing all day long.
Absolutely. And when would you stop?
Until there was not a drop left.
Right. So you'd squeeze it and get everything, till a drop was left. You channel your frustration with the Washington Football Club. You get every last bit out of it, right? And what if I gave you a dry towel? How many times would you squeeze a dry towel?
Probably not once.
Okay, just once, or not once, or once.
I was going to say probably not even once. I might squeeze it once just to see if I can get something out of it, but I might not even try.
And then this is the difference between New Yorkers and Washington people. Like New Yorkers, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a native New Yorker. I'd squeeze it once, twice, three times because I always think there's something up. But even a New Yorker, people in Washington are a little more polite, and different parts of the country.
It's funny you should say that. I was on a call last night, and somebody asked me a very sort of pointed question, and he's in California, by the way, and he said, "That was such a Washington D.C. politically correct response, Chris. Just tell me the truth. Tell me what you really think." So anyway, carry on. Dry towel.
Yeah. So, but if even a New Yorker would give up after 2 or 3 squeeze. So in sales, you are the towel, and you have to instead of not looking forward to negotiation, anticipate getting squeezed. In fact, look forward to it. Right. I want you to be like, I want salespeople to be disappointed if they come. I want them to come to their manager and go, "Oh, they only squeezed me twice." I was prepared to resist squeezes 7 different times. That was nothing. That's all you got. So you want to be prepared to resist squeezes, look forward to it, know it's coming, and be able to be prepared for that by refocusing on value. And this is some of the things that sales engineers will learn through discovery and through their demo. You said, well, it's really important to have an easy to use product with the screen set up exactly in the format that matched whatever it might be. Or it was really important to get this report exactly the way you needed it. Or it might be, the ad hoc reporting was absolutely critical to your success. So those are the things that you learn through your sales engineering effort and through discovery and through those things. So those things that you learn. And also when you ask why, are your number one choice why? Ease of adoption, right? You have a quick start program, all these different things. You go, well, when you go to resist squeeze, you say, you mentioned the quick start program was absolutely critical to success, right? Is that still true? Or you mentioned adoption was really critical to success. Let's get started. Let's get going. Let's get you up and going. And it gives them a nice, polite, face-saving way to agree to the sale. And this is stuff that they've told you. So you're just repeating back and confirming. And it's a nice, polite, face-saving way to agree to the sale.
I love that. The other thought that came to mind is when you get the squeeze, and to use your term, right? To respond with something like, "Thank you for asking. I'm actually glad to see that you're asking these questions because it shows me that you're serious about making this investment. You're taking this opportunity very, very seriously," which I think is the right decision, by the way, right? So, and that totally catches people off guard. Like, wait a minute, you're happy that I'm talking. I'm asking you for some sort of break in the price. I'm asking you to sharpen the pencil, as they say.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a good sign. It means we're more than likely going to work together. So
yeah. I love that attitude, and always friendly, and always collaborative, right? We're going to make this great. This is going to be a relationship. It's going to take you to where you want to be in the future. So,
absolutely.
And it goes to the sort of the mindset of a negotiator. Like, I want you to get this. I want to do the deal, not just for me, but for you, because it's going to make your business and your personal life better. Exactly. Right. So, and I want to make this, I want to get more value out of the deal for you and for me at the end of the negotiation than at the beginning. So, and we can talk about some of our clients, and I'll say this for a little later. We had one client, this was a large deal. It was about a $55 million deal. It was 11 million. It was a 5-year, 12 million. So it's $60 million, 5 years at 12 million. The client came back at they won 5 years of 55 million, so about an 8% discount. I can walk you through all the details. They both ended up at 7 years, 12 million for an $84 million deal, and both parties got more out of the value of that contract.
That's awesome.
Just sort of as a mindset, we're gonna go into negotiation and give you more value, and we're gonna get more value. So your proposal will almost be a starting point down, right? That's the minimum. I want to do. You want to do more years? No problem. Okay.
Yeah. I love it. So that's number 3, to anticipate and honestly welcome those questions, those squeezes. What's number 4?
Number 4 is to know the budget and decision-making process. This is a sales 101, but even experienced salespeople, we like talking about pain. We like doing all those probing questions. like challenging, we like doing all that stuff. We don't like asking the sales one-on-one questions, but you got to know the basics, right? You know, what's the budget range? What's the decision-making process? Who else is involved? What are the competing priorities? One of my favorite questions are, who do we need to get on board, and what obstacles can get in the way? And when you ask what obstacles can get in the way, you're on the same side of the table. Oh, John, he used your software 5 years ago or whatever, and he has a negative thing. Or Jane loved using it. She came from another organization. Okay, great. Right. So understand, like, hey, what can derail this? And if it's going to go through procurement, less and less SaaS software. Well, depending on the size of the deal, if it's going to go through procurement, let's have a proactive procurement plan. Okay, how are we going to do that? And what are the signing levels? We had one client the other week. One of their customers had $1 million signing authority. They wanted to close a $3 million deal. This was a SaaS company. So he goes, "You have $1 million signing? We could do it as 3 contracts of $995,000." Right. So just understand those types of things, right?
Yeah.
Sales,
good.
Sales 101, right? And step 5 is to expand the pie with a set of non-monetary trade-offs. And when I say non-monetary, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a price and doesn't have a cost. It just means the value to the customer is greater than the cost to us. And what do we want to get in return? So for example, you might have an accelerated start program, right? So they can start using and benefiting from your system. You might give them 3 months free while you're doing the implementation, just as an example. You might give them priority support or customized support. You may give them some small discount on professional services, right? These are things that continue to lower the risk than on a dollar for dollar discount. And what do you want to get in return? You might offer a thing, and we encourage all our clients to do a health checkup, right? You want this to be successful. So 30, 60, 90 days, what are we doing to make sure it's successful? That's much more valuable to the client. And what do you want to get in return? So maybe we want a multi-year commit, maybe we want testimonials, references, case studies, start sooner, more users, higher user bands, all kinds of things. So, and those are continuing things that add more value to both sides and are a dollar for discount. So for example, someone wants a $10,000 discount. You can go like, great. What about if I gave you $10,000 worth of training? Or how about $15,000 of training? Or how about $20,000 of training, right? Isn't that a better deal? Wow, you give me $20,000 worth of training, which only cost me, in the old days, some manuals and some sandwiches. Now, there's almost no cost involved to additional training, some people time. So you've increased the value to the customer, continue to lower their risk, increase the successfulness, and you become more part of the fabric of that organization as more people get trained. And when people leave that organization, what are they going to say? Oh, I love this software, or I love this. This was absolutely great, right? And what do you want to get in return? So always look for ways, and that's much better than a dollar for dollar discount. If I give you $10,000 off, it doesn't lower the risk for anybody. $10,000 of additional support, $10,000 of implementation services, $10,000 worth of training lowers the risk and ensures more success, right? And it's not a dollar for dollar discount. So we each end up with more. And by the way, we're going to have to turn this 2-year commit into a 3-year commit to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the kind of trade-offs that are really important, especially for companies.
Absolutely love that. And I have to be honest, Ron, there's some, I find myself thinking about some of the deals that I've done, thinking maybe I need to be, offering a few things here and there and thinking about even approaching some of these in a different way myself. So, Ron, let me just take a quick pause, folks. I'm speaking with Ron Hubsher. He's an author, in fact, the author of Closing Time, a book on sales negotiation. He's a trainer, he's a speaker, a guest lecturer at Harvard, and a second-time guest. And by all means, if anybody has any questions for Ron, we'll be on for another 20, 25 minutes or so. And we're talking through, at the moment, the 7 laws of sales negotiation. And so we touched on the first one was be the number one choice. And certainly sales engineers, we have a direct impact on that. The second is know the value. And again, I think even as a sales engineer, it's critical for us to understand the value, certainly in the context of presenting the solution, demonstrating the solution. From a sales perspective, number 3, anticipate the squeeze. As you said, Ron, know the budget, know the process, and then be prepared to expand the deal, right? And what I heard you saying is this is not a binary conversation, right? We need to be very creative in our approach to these conversations and always be thinking value, right? To win-win. All right, so we've covered 5. We got 2 more to cover. What's number 6?
Yeah, number 6 is never give without getting. So if you are, and this goes through your whole sales process and negotiation process. And by the way, you want to think about negotiation from your very first sales call, right? And your first negotiation actually happens before you even take that first phone call or Zoom call. So if you are going to give something, make sure you get something in return. And that's through your whole sales and negotiation process. And here we're specifically talking about discounts. So if you are going to give a $1 discount, and we suggest you rarely do, there's usually something better in step 5. You want $10,000 off? I'd rather give you $15,000 worth of training, right? Isn't that better value to you? Is it $20,000 worth of training? Or give you a health checkup, which is worth $15,000, right? And here's what I want in return. Get something in return. So if you want a 5% discount, we're gonna need a multi-year commit. And never, by the way, never discount around numbers, because that just says to the customer, I just kind of picked this out of thin air, right? So 5%, 10%, and that becomes legacy discounts. Last time we worked with you, it was 10, 20, 30% off, right? So I can't do a 5%, but I can go 4.97 or 4.63, which shows some precision, right? Like there's some thought there, and helps. You don't want to create a legacy discount. And again, you have to get something in return. We in sales are trained as pleasers, right? The customer is always right. That's the way we're brought up. We want to get the deal. So if you don't ask for anything in return, they'll have very little respect for your give, which encourages more gives. So even though like I include step 6 in there, I want you to close by step 5, right? I don't want you giving $1 discounts. I'd rather see you adding more value, continue to lower the buyer's risk than already a $1 discount, right? But if you are going to give a discount, make sure you get something in return. And salespeople usually go right to discounts. Oh, what do you need? 20%? Okay, I can get you 20%. And then if you close by the end of the quarter, I'll give you 20%. And it doesn't close by the end of the quarter or in the month. And then they go, oh, where are you now?
Yeah.
And what if you're getting me 20% at the end of the month? What are you gonna do at the end of the quarter, end of the year? So you're training your buyer to squeeze you even more.
And by the way, I do see in many of the organizations I've worked with that this problem starts with management. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Number 7. Let's move to number 7.
Number 7 is know your walkaway price. If you are the buyer's number one choice and if you go through steps 1 through 6, you should rarely, if ever, get here. But if you do get there, you have to understand that, for some deals, you just have to walk away. And always walk away politely. Whenever we deliver a training, we always talk about, we've walked away from deals and people have called back, anywhere from a couple days, to a couple minutes later. We actually had one great deal. This was this is in the advertising industry, digital advertising. They were selling to a pharmaceutical company and they were trying to get for 9 months back and forth. And finally the rep said, look, I don't think we can get this done. I mean, we've been going back and forth. We just can't get this done. And I'm sorry, I want to help you. I was really interested. And this is a significant value deal. And he said, we just can't get this deal done. I apologize. So I walked away politely. And about an hour and a half later, he got a call back. And I said, okay, let's just do this. And he was like, in our training class, he said, I wish I would have done it about 7 months earlier. They went back and forth for 9 months. And then finally we said, no. They're like, oh, here we go.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny you should say that because a lot of times and customers and they're so used to salespeople push, right? The moment you pull back and say, actually, would love to do some business with you guys, but it seems like, it seems like we're just not going to be able to land on an agreement that works for both parties, which is perfectly fine. Which they went, well, wait a minute, don't go away, don't leave, right?
Right.
We didn't say we wanted to do it. Well, but that's what you do.
And Chris, one of the things I really like about you is you always have such a wonderful attitude in dealing with clients and sort of saying, hey, thank you for asking those questions, right? Oh, that's great. And when they're sort of expecting pushback, you're very Zen-like, and I guess it's jujitsu. Like you use their energy, and you just come back with more positive energy, which I just think is fabulous and very commendable on your part.
Yeah, thank you. Drop the rope, my friend. So that's and people that go through my workshops know that. So anyway.
Tell me more about drop the rope. It sounds great. Tell me more about that. So people,
it's just a simple concept that we use, and simply put, people resist any pressure to change if they feel as though their right to choose is not being respected. It's just that simple. So we just need to communicate in such a way that we respect everyone's right to choose. Such as if you decide to, right, might you consider, right? In fact, even when I do I invite everybody to do introductions, and I say, so Ron, do you care to introduce yourself? Right? It's your choice. You can say no. Chances are you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You would, right? And when we communicate in this way, it's surprisingly refreshing, and people don't even know why.
Yeah.
Because we're all so used to being told what to do by everyone, right? And when somebody communicates in such a way that it respects their right to choose, it's like, wow, that feels unusually nice.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And we don't even know why. So yeah, I mean, to me, and it's just, and you understand, Ron, it's a mindset, right? I mean, one of the things that you said in our first visit together, I think it was our first visit together, maybe it was one of our phone calls offline. You said, there is no me without you.
Right.
And I just love, in fact, I have to give you credit. I think I referenced you and that line in my workshop yesterday. I just love that mentality, right? It's what we, I do some work with Aslan Training and Development, and they have a program called Other-Centered Selling. And to me, that is the definition of other-centered. Without you, there is no me, right? So it's all about making you successful, right? And look, if my solution is not a good fit for you, that's okay. There's plenty of other people who are lining up to talk to me about my solution, right? So if this doesn't work, we can go elsewhere, right? So it's just a mentality. By the way, Ron, I don't know if you've met my good friend Andy and industry colleague. What are the gifts and gets? And he wrote a long-winded, and I don't know if I can do the whole thing. It came back ready for it. So this is Andy's sort of story of, we walked away and then they came back and said, wait a minute, don't go away. Andy, it's always good to see you, buddy. Glad you're on. Glad you joined. Ron, so we've covered the 7 laws. One of the things that I said in the little description here is, we were going to talk about the mindset, and you've touched on mindset a few times, and I think we've sort of danced around it a little bit. But let's go directly there. If you were to sort of quantify, summarize the mindset of an effective sales negotiator, how would you describe that?
Yeah, and it's actually funny. So one of my good buddies teaches at Darden in the graduate school, and we just ran a class for their MBA students, and we asked them, what are some of your biggest negotiation challenges? And I said, the tension, the fear, the confrontation, and they were great people, less seasoned negotiators, but it was all about the tension and the fear, and they felt it was confrontational, and no one on the planet Earth likes being confrontational. I mean, maybe some people do, but the majority of us, we want to get along with everybody, right? So people start with the idea they get tense in a negotiation. And if you're prepared, my mindset is, hey, I want to make you happy, and there's no you without me. There's no me without you, right? So I got to make you happy in the sense of this solution is going to make you much better, right? And I want to make this. I want to make this agreement better for you than you could even possibly imagine. So as good as we've been to this point, we're going to make this agreement even great. It's going to help you and help your career. And I'm looking forward to making this happen and allocating our resources to you. Our resources are limited and precious. Your resources are limited and precious. Let's commit each other's resources to each other and make this much better than we can even imagine. And what I always tell our clients, I said, we're going to have the best relationship you have. This is going to be the most successful program that you've ever done. I'll guarantee you that. Right. And people get it. And we get it all the time. They go, wow, this is the single best program we ever ran. And we make sure we deliver to that. But my mindset is, this is going to be the best thing you ever did. And in this negotiation, you're going to come out with more value than when we started. And as good a relationship as we have, it's going to be even better at the end. And it's never confrontational. And I love the way you approach. I'm glad you asked me that. what was the exact verbiage? Do you mind? Do you care to introduce yourself? I mean, just those nice ways of presenting things. Just, hey, we're here to make this great for you. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. But trust me, from what we've done together, this is going to be the best thing you ever did.
Exactly. No, I love that mindset and just the words that you used. I think I'm going to reuse that, which is better than you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I because if I'm on the receiving end of that, it's making me realize that, wow, maybe this is bigger than I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is better than I'm thinking,
mm-hmm.
right? Maybe my thinking is a little bit limited, and that's what's keeping me back from moving forward. So yeah. I just, to me, the confidence and the sincerity and the other-centeredness as a term I like to use it's just so profound. So yeah.
I'll actually give you a great example. This is just a deal we just closed recently. Very, very similar to that. So, the gentleman said, here's my budget. I can't go above that. It's just all I got. And I said, okay, no worries. We can work within your budget. We're just gonna need some introductions and success stories with metrics. And he was like, well, what kind of metrics? We're going to do metrics on the class and this and that. And I go, how would you define metrics? Because it was in the contract and this and that. And I just said, define metrics any way you want. He goes, we can only do metrics on the quality of the class because we can't measure success of the program. And I said, just trust me. I've seen this before. You're going to be surprised how many people come to our follow-up session with documented success stories. They're going to say, because I use this law, I got this result. And, it's like, oh, wow. I wasn't thinking that way. I go, you'll be able to show, they at this point don't have the ability to show close rate and discount rate because they don't have a way to compare that to their old thing, to their old system, which is a lot of companies don't have that. But I said, when we do our follow-up session, I guarantee there's going to be 2 or 3 people who say, I used law number 1, I got this result, right? I did this, I got that result. And I go, trust me, define metrics however you want. Anyway, I'm good with any metrics that you want. You tell me, I'm not going to define metrics for you. But I guarantee you'll be surprised how applicable our training will be to direct results. So who wasn't thinking you could track it to a result? Right. And I was like, yeah, trust me, we'll track it to results.
I absolutely love it. Well, and as a sales trainer as well, I mean, and I know this, there's nothing better than circling back with a client 2 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later, and hearing those very specific success stories. I had a client share with me recently. He said, habit number 4, the simplest of the 6, click every click. He said, it was the meeting for all the key stakeholders. It was the go, no go. And the day before we did a full run through, we clicked every click. We got to the very last part of the demo and clicked into it, and it bombed the day before. So, and we didn't have time to fix or change. We just pulled it. We just said, we can do the demo without it.
Yeah.
And we went in and the demo went flawlessly. Yeah. And he said, honestly, Chris, before your training, we probably wouldn't have clicked every click, particularly the last bloody thing in, a 30-minute. And he's like, it probably would have failed in front of the customer. And who knows if we would have closed it. So, when you hear things like that, it's unbelievably satisfying. So, Ron, you have been unbelievably gracious with your time, sir. And I know we're just about out of time.
Okay.
There's one more question I'd love to kick around with you, if I can indulge you for just another minute, and that is the relationship between AE and SE, the relationship between sales and pre-sales. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we talk about the negotiation that has to take place because, and you understand the situation and the role. In many cases, we have sales that are driving their pipeline and trying to get things through the funnel, obviously, right? And we have sales engineers that are trying to keep up with the demand of discovery call, demonstration, proof of concept, et cetera. And one of the things that I tell the SEs that I work with on the regular is it's a bit of a negotiation. Now, that's not a sales negotiation, right? That's really sort of a workload strategy negotiation. What advice, if any, would you give a sales engineer who was maybe struggling to effectively, I don't want to use the word pushback because that's a little bit too strong, but effectively negotiate with their sales counterpart to manage their time, take the right approach, etc. Any advice you would give?
Yeah, well, I always think you want to align with your salespeople, right? We're both in this together. We both want to close as many sales as possible. Here are the things that I need to do a great demo so that we'll have a high close rate, right? So we don't have to all this effort and not end up with a sale. I need to know the following things for discovery. I need to know the following issues. How do you envision this call going? What questions do you want me to ask? What questions do you want to ask? So I always want to have everything prepped in advance. And, some people will just sort of use you as a demo guy. But that's a lower probability to close. We both want to close this business. For me to give you a successful demo that's worthy of my time and your time, because you're going to be on this call, you could be doing other things, and the client's going to be on that call. What are the things we need to do to really knock this thing out of the park? And when I do a demo, I want to make sure it's perfect for you. So maybe we need a sample report to mock up. What are the things that you need to make this successful, and that we all need to make it successful? And let's wait until we get that, or if we can't get that, it's going to be less successful. And let's understand that and understand that's a lower priority than these other ones that do have those specifications, right? So I always think, when I used to do sales, before we had sales engineers, I configure my own demos, and then when we had sales engineers, they configure. But I would say, I always go to the client, what's key reports you want to see, right? I always talk about what's your inputs, what's your output, and I would typically show them the input and show them the output, which is exactly what they wanted. So we'd have that all pre-configured, and we'd have their customers' names in there and all that stuff, right? Or customers in their website. So we'd always make it like a highly hyper-configured demo. And the more you can configure it and make it look like their world, the better off you're going to be. So I always sort of push back and say, and the whole goal is I want you to make as much commission as possible. I want to make as much commission as possible. I want our company to win. I want everybody to win.
Of course.
Here's what we need to make that happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as a salesperson, you can't get the stuff you need. I understand that. But it's just let's understand together. We're both not going to be as successful as we'd like to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I just absolutely love that. As you were saying, the thought that I had, really it comes to a certain degree, it comes back with the never give without getting, right? And putting things on the table, right? Mm-hmm. It starts with setting those expectations. Here are the things that, as a general rule of thumb, I, as a sales engineer, need in order to be successful, right? Here are the things that I understand you as a sales, the sales rep, the account exec want, right? As a result of my engagement, right? In order for you to get those things, these are the things I need. Now, if we don't have these things, then there's certain things I may or may not be able to do, right? And are we at peace with that, right? Are we willing to move forward knowing that risk?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And that, at the end of the day, that's it. So no, I think that's really valuable insights, and hopefully anybody in that particular role and who find themselves in that situation can, certainly take a few things away as well. So Ron, once again, thank you so much, sir. It's always a pleasure. Any final words from you?
Oh, Chris, you're amazing. Always such a pleasure working with you. And for anybody who's listening out there, if you have sales engineers, Chris is the man. He will greatly improve your sales outcomes just by using his 6 habits. He's amazing. And the way he not only I always think there's sort of information that's really critical, and then how you present it so people adopt it. So I always think it's the quality of the information and how people do it. And Chris is just for lack of a better term, he's like Michael Jordan in both those areas. So
well, that's
appreciate it, Chris.
You're probably making me blush a tad. So hopefully that's not coming through on Zoom. But really appreciate your comments, Ron. It's always a pleasure. The book is Closing Time, and the website is salesog.com, right?
Correct.
Okay. And sales negotiation, there's really only one place where you can get expertise and training on specifically sales negotiation, and that's Ron and his group. So Ron, thank you very much, sir. Enjoy the rest of the week. Good luck the rest of the year. And I know we'll be talking again soon. So take
Chris,
care.
what a pleasure. Thank you.
And anybody who joined us, thank you so much for joining. Michael, Andy, I see your notes there, and Phil, and anybody else. And anybody who hung around for the recording, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Thanks all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.